入場してくるかっていう感じになります。
外務省の人に聞いてもらえますか。はい。それでは皆様、岸田総理とシュミハリ首相が入場されます。皆様、拍手で。
Prime Minister Kishida and Prime Minister Shimihara will make their entrance into the venue. Please give them a round of applause.
ただいまから
We will commence Japan-Ukraine Conference for Promotion of Economic Growth and Reconstructions. First, we would like to invite the Prime Minister Kishida to give us a keynote speak. Prime Minister Shimihari, ladies and gentlemen, firstly, let me express my utmost respect again for the courage and then perseverance of the Ukrainian people who have been standing up in defense of the freedom and independence of their country for the 2 years since the start of Russian aggression. While presiding over the G7 presidency last year, Japan led discussions on support for Ukraine and has provided it with robust backing, including financial assistance. Japan has stood and will continue to stand with Ukraine. The starting point for today's conference is my visit to Ukraine last March as the G7 chair. During our meeting in Kyiv, President Zelensky outlined what he valued about Japan's experience and technology, as well as his strong expectation for Japan's private investment for the long-term reconstruction of Ukraine. Following that visit, I decided to hold this unique Japan-Ukraine Conference for the Promotion of Economic Growth and Reconstruction with the confidence that we should be able to make what I call Japan's unique contribution. President Zelensky stated, "Your money is not charity. It's an investment in the global security and democracy." And I'd like to add a further point. It is investment in the future. In Ukraine, the war is still going on at this very moment. The situation is not easy. But the promotion of economic reconstruction is what we call an investment in the future for Ukraine, Japan, and the world. We must strive for the future of all of us. Japan is committed to fostering the economic growth of Ukraine, a nation with a substantial potential, by offering strong support for economic reconstructions and industrial enhancement. This assistance, spanning both public and private sector, is geared towards achieving comprehensive economic development across primary to tertiary sectors, encompassing key areas like agriculture, manufacturing, and the IT industry. On that basis, today, I would like to share with the Ukrainian people 3 principles, 5 actions, and 50 commitments for implementing Japan's unique contribution. To begin with, there are 3 important principles for promoting Japan's unique contribution. The first of the 3 principles is inclusiveness. With an emphasis on human dignity, we will stay close to all the Ukrainian people, including women and children, And from a women, peace, and security perspective, we will support Ukraine's self-sustaining development and reconstructions for the long term. The second is partnership. The leading actors for Ukraine's reconstructions must be the people of Ukraine. The key to promoting the long-term sustainable reconstruction of Ukraine is to work together with the Ukrainian people rather than providing unilateral support. Japan will heed the needs of the Ukrainian side and respond to those needs attentively. The third is knowledge and technology. Utilizing a knowledge derived from the post-war and disaster reconstruction effort, as well as advanced technology and know-hows from the private sector, Japan's public and private sector will work together through an all-Japan approach. Of course, the door is open to participation not only by the major companies but also by SMEs with advanced technologies. In addition to these three principles, as the outcome of today's conference, we will take the following 5 actions to promote Japanese private investment and create employment in Ukraine. First, we will conclude the new tax convention as a part of a development of a legal infrastructure. We will also commence negotiations for review of the investment agreement. Second, to boost Ukraine's reconstruction, we will support Ukraine through international financial institutions by contributing to the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development's capital increase and by providing a 2-step loan through the Black Sea Trade and Development Bank by JBIC. And third, as a form of a bilateral cooperation, we will implement public-private partnership project through ODA and JICA's private sector investment finance for Ukrainian venture capitalists. Fourth, we will establish a JETRO office in Kyiv to expand business ties, investment, and trade between the two countries. In addition, to reduce investment and trade risk for Japanese companies, NEXI will establish new credit lines. Fifth, we will also introduce measures to relax the multi-entry visa requirements for Ukrainian people involved in Japan-Ukraine cooperation projects. Specific commitments based on the 3 principles and 5 actions are reflected in the over 50 cooperation documents signed this time between Japanese companies, including startups, and their Ukrainian counterparts. Japan will follow up on these outcomes from the initial emergency assistance, livelihood reconstructions, and onto economic reconstructions and the industrial enhancement. We will continue to make various efforts to contribute to Ukraine's economic development. We aim to establish a foundation for sustainable recovery and reconstructions and supporting Ukrainian people in rebuilding their lives and fostering the development of new industries. Reconstruction of Ukraine will be a long process. The solidarity of the international community in supporting this process also needs to be strengthened. We will work with our partners, including international organizations, in close collaboration with G7 and other countries. We will pursue our efforts in line with the development in international community, including an international Ukraine recovery conference to be held in Germany this June. The reconstruction and revitalization of Ukraine following the invasion by Russia are in the best interest of Japan and the international community. We ask for the cooperation of all the participants in this conference to this end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister Kishida. We were originally planning to show a video message from President Zelensky. However, due to reasons from the Ukrainian side, the video message has been cancelled, and we will be asking His Excellency Mr. Denis Shmyhal, the Prime Minister of Ukraine, to give a speech. Your Excellency Prime Minister Kishida Fumio of Japan, dear partners, friends, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to start my speech with words of gratitude to the people of Japan. I would really like to convey our thanks to the people of Japan. And from the President of Ukraine, Mr. Zelensky, I have been asked to convey a message of thanks. Ukraine and Japan are thousands of kilometers apart. Both countries have different histories and a different past. However, our hopes for peace, safety, harmony, and prosperity are something we hold in common. I take this opportunity to thank Prime Minister Kishida for his visit to Ukraine last year. Ukrainians highly appreciate the visit and will never forget that. It is the first time in 80 years that a Japanese Prime Minister has visited a country under war. This is a show of courage and leadership. Please provide a round of applause for this courage and leadership. During his visit to Ukraine, Prime Minister Kishida has visited the small town of Bucha, which has been faced with unhumanitarian crimes by the Russian military. Ukrainians have been shot to death on the streets just because they were Ukrainian. This comes with terrible pain. The people of Japan has experienced many terrible things in the course of history, and I'm sure that you empathize with the pain of the Ukrainian people. And your empathy is really appreciated by the people of Ukraine, and it is turning into unprecedented support. During the visit, Prime Minister Kishida and President Zelensky were able to create a foundation for new global partnership, a special partnership between the two countries. Japan has confirmed its resolve to participate in the reconstruction of Ukraine. This means that today's conference will be the next step towards continuing the development of both countries' relationships. Holding this conference was something that was agreed with President Zelensky, and we really appreciate Japan's inviting the Ukrainian delegation. By combining our powers together, we believe we can change this challenge into an opportunity for future growth and prosperity, especially under Japan's presidency of the G7 last year. Japan has shown wonderful leadership, and we convey our gratitude to what Japan has done. When I met with Prime Minister Kishida in New York in 2022, he committed that Japan would be a strong supporter of Ukraine at the G7 level, and we would like to thank him for keeping the promise. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the representatives from Japanese corporations who have visited Ukraine last year. JETRO and JICA's support are also appreciated. We also express our welcome for JICA's decision to resume its Ukrainian office operations. Since Russia's full-scale invasion started, Japan has provided Ukraine with over $10 billion of various support. During this time, the financial and economic support has amounted to $8.5 billion or more. Among the financial support provided by partner countries to Ukraine, Japan ranks 4th place. And thanks to this funding, during this terrible war that has been caused by Russia, millions of Ukrainian people have been able to survive. Thank you very much for that. Today is the new start of cooperation between the two countries. We will be building true friendship and partnership together with all of you. I would like to take this opportunity to invite Prime Minister Kishida and also government leaders to visit Ukraine again. Japan is a beautiful and successful country. Japan's experiences in reconstruction and its economic miracle provide us with inspiration. We have learned from the Yoshida Doctrine and Japan's plans for doubling our national income. We are learning from Japan's experience of modernization. And we have analyzed all of the factors that have made it possible for the Japanese economy to rank within the top 5. We would like to adapt various economic measures so the Ukrainian economic miracle will also be apparent to the world. Ukraine has shown that the impossible can become possible. We were able to withstand the attacks from the Russian army, and we believe in the success of our country. We came here to discuss various topics related to the future success with the Ukrainian team. We also to convey our confidence. That's why we have leaders from business circles in addition to the Ukrainian government present here today. The private sector is the main engine for reconstruction effort in Ukraine. International business is at the center. We would like to work together with Japanese countries on the modernization and reconstruction of Ukraine. We want you all to be part of the economic miracle for Ukraine. Companies that invest in the Ukrainian economy now will be able to gain benefits and opportunities in the next few years that you would not believe. Ukraine's success is not just our success, it is your success as well. Japanese companies have already been successful in Ukraine. For example, Yazaki and Fujikura factories are producing electronic and electrical devices for automobiles. JT has invested more than $300 million in Ukrainian production. What can Ukraine provide to you now? First, on energy, nuclear power, natural gas production and storage, hydrogen energy projects, and also hydropower projects. The second area of success is agriculture. Ukraine is already one of the world's leaders in producing crops, various crops. In the next 10 years, food consumption is expected to grow by 1.3% every year. With Japan's technology and investment, Ukraine will be able to conduct ambitious projects in the area of fertilizer production and food production. And we have potential to make the agricultural growth rate be in double digits. The third area is infrastructure. The damage in Ukraine is assessed to be over $100 billion. This is a huge devastation. At the same time, this creates a market for tens of billions of dollars worth. In addition to reconstructing devastated towns, we would like to urge Japanese investors to take part in expressway, railway, and bridge construction projects. The fourth area is automobiles. Toyota, Nissan, Honda, Suzuki, Mazda, and Subaru, and other Japanese automobile companies are welcome to really come to Ukraine. We would love for you to be creating production sites in Ukraine. Please take this opportunity. I would like to take this opportunity to convey gratitude to all of the Japanese companies who have withdrawn their business from the Russian market. This is a really responsible business decision that should be respected. At the same time, our government is thinking of special programs that will benefit you. The fifth area is extraction of natural resources. For lithium, one-third of the reserves of lithium confirmed in Europe is in Ukraine. And this resource will be able to build a closed cycle for producing electric vehicles. And Ukraine's natural resource extraction area is starting to function based on European standards. The sixth area is IT, digital technology, and cybersecurity. Ukraine has the ambition to become a digital hub for Europe. And for IT companies, we are one of the countries that is preparing advantageous conditions in terms of tax. Even during the war, the Ukrainian IT industry continues to grow. We would like for you to consider investment in this area. We have a broad range of possibilities in addition to the 6 areas. We do hope there will be many new opportunities from the B2B meeting today. As stressed earlier, private sector companies and investors really need to fulfill a central role in the recovery and reconstruction of Ukraine. There are lots of jobs waiting. Speed and efficiency are necessary. Last week was the World Bank. We have assessed the Ukrainian damage and cost needed for reconstruction. The reconstruction project will cost $486 billion. We call on Japanese business circles to really join in the project. We are also working to confiscate hundreds of billions of assets that have been frozen Russian assets. And this should be the main source of funding for Ukraine's reconstruction. Russia must pay the price of the devastation, sadness, and also pain that Ukraine has suffered. Another important factor is that Ukraine is not only aiming for a reconstruction. We are not just rebuilding, we are generating new rules of the game, new approaches. And we are focusing on anti-corruption measures. And we are already seeing significant improvements. The EU has decided to start the negotiation process for Ukraine's accession to the EU. EU partners have really appreciated the achievements and reform that our country has been executing in recent years. And so the actual question on hand is how quickly can we do this? And how quickly can we join the EU? Similar to how Japan was in the past, Ukraine also has its own set of tools and strategies for transformation. And we are working to digitalize various services for individuals and companies. We are already the world's leader in this area. Already dozens of administrative services can be accessed from your smartphone. Another thing is deregulation, setting up tax incentives, industrial parks, and also a new approach to public-private partnership and concessions, and also highly transparent public tenders and public procurement. These tools are already in place and are being developed. Ukraine today is a place where we have more courage and where history is being made. The world has its eyes on Ukraine. Dictators and potential invaders are also turning their eyes to Ukraine as well. They are looking to see how Russia's atrocities and violation of international law will be seen and how by the world and how the world will take action. As Prime Minister Kishida said, today's Ukraine may be East Asia of tomorrow. Ukraine is fighting for equitable peace. An equitable peace is based on the 10-point formula that was proposed by President Volodymyr Zelensky. We know very well how Japan cherishes peace. The Japanese constitution is also called the Peace Constitution. And Article 9 of the Japanese Constitution talks about how important justice and order are to peace. Point 1 of the peace formula says that no one has the right to threaten the world with a radioactive disaster. Ukraine has voluntarily given up its nuclear weapons, and now we are being attacked by one of the largest nuclear powers in the world. The Russian military has occupied the Zaporizhia nuclear power station and literally changed it into a radioactive bomb. This is threatening the entire world. We must prevent reoccurrence of a nuclear disaster. We must force Russia to hand over control of the nuclear power plant to IAEA and Ukrainian experts. This is a joint mission for us all. And we hope that, and Ukraine is currently living through dark times in history, but we see the light of hope. The light of hope comes from people. Already we have a legendary hero from Japan who is a volunteer, Mr. Fuminori Tsuchiko, who started a cafe in Kharkiv. Kharkiv is being shelled by Russian bombs almost every week. And Mr. Tsuchiko said he wants people to smile and provides meals for free. In the war-ravaged Kharkiv, this word really has a special meaning for the citizens. It really shows the persevering spirit of humans. Ukraine is a place of light and hope. In the past 2 years, we have felt the special support from the people of Japan and the Japanese government. We appreciate Japan's solidarity. We believe this is a show of Japan's power, kindness, and leadership. This is something that will make its mark on history, and Ukrainians will never forget this. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Prime Minister Kishida. Thank you. Prime Minister Shimihari, thank you very much. We'll now move on to the ceremony to showcase signed documents, where Prime Minister Kishida and Prime Minister Shimihari step on stage, please. And with the other people to go on stage, come up on stage as your name is called. We will first be exchanging the tax treaty documents that have been signed today. The exchange will be done by Mr. Marchenko, Minister of Finance of Ukraine, and Mr. Yakura, State Minister of Finance of Japan.
それでは次に外務省とウクライナ
The next exchange of documents is between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan and the Ministry of Communities, Territories and Infrastructure of Ukraine, exchanging the public document for the program for emergency recovery phase 3.
The
next exchange of documents is between the JCM between the Ministry of the Environment of Japan and the Ministry for Environmental Protection. Next exchange of documents is between the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology and the Ministry of Education and Science, a memorandum of agreement on technology cooperation in the area of education and science. The next exchange of documents is between the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport and the Ministry of Communities, Territories and Infrastructure for the cooperation for Ukraine infrastructure recovery and reconstruction. The next exchange of documents is between JICA and the Ministry of Communities, Territories and Infrastructure. A grant agreement regarding emergency recovery program phase 3. Cooperation MOU with the Ukrainian Ministry of Economy for promoting private sector participation and partnership for Ukraine's reconstruction. Also with Verizon Capital investment agreement for supporting export-oriented industries in Ukraine and Moldova. The next exchange of documents is between JETRO and various entities. A cooperation memorandum of understanding with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, cooperation MOU with the Ukrainian Entrepreneurship and Export Promotion Office, a letter of intent for cooperation on supporting Ukraine reconstruction with UNDP, a joint declaration on cooperation on supporting Ukraine reconstruction with UNIDO, and an MOU of cooperation for generating business between Ukrainian small and mid-sized businesses and Japanese companies with the EBRD. Next exchange of documents is with JBIC and Black Sea Trade and Development Bank, an MOU for strengthening cooperation between both entities for supporting Ukrainian reconstruction. The next exchange is with NEXI. A cooperation memorandum of understanding with ECA Ukraine and a revised MOU for cooperation with EBRD. We move on to documents signed by the Agency for Restoration and Infrastructure Development. An MOU with the Urban Renaissance Agency on Promotion and Cooperation for Reconstruction and Urban Development. An MOU with the Japan Water Agency for cooperation on promoting repair of dams and continuing cooperation. An MOU with IHI for the survey of improvement of M15 line and portable panel bridge.
次に日本
The next exchange of documents is between the Japanese Chamber of Commerce and the Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce, an MOU for partnership and cooperation related to promoting economy and trade between both countries.
次にウクライナ農業政
We will move on to documents signed by the Ministry of Agricultural Policy and Food. With Maekawa, a basic agreement on improvement of revenue and export power in agriculture. With Kubota, an MOU on provision of agricultural machines. With Yama Agri, basic agreement on recovering production power in agriculture. With Mibio, an MOU for promoting recovery of agricultural production capabilities. With Kakuichi, MOU for agricultural productivity recovery. With AC Biode, an MOU for instant housing and agricultural waste recycling. With Mebio and also the National Environmental University and Natural Fertilizers Limited, an MOU for film agricultural method. Next was the Rakuten Symphony and Kyivstar, an MOU for rebuilding digital infrastructure. Next, an MOU with Sojitsu, Picosera, and Kyivstar, an MOU for rapid building of an internet environment leveraging mesh Wi-Fi. Next was Japan Basic, Pataco, and Neo Eco, an MOU for and letter of intent for advanced technology for processing debris. Next, between Ukurabit Company and EF Polymer, a letter of intent for leveraging EF Polymer for sustainable agriculture and for local production mechanisms. With Allied Carbon Solutions, a biosurfactant leveraged agricultural and farming review letter of intent with Allied Carbon Solutions and Alnica Organic, and biosurfactant leveraged farming and agricultural method review letter of intent. Next was Instagram and Best of Mission. A proof of concept for building a mass production structure, introducing prosthetic production technology, digital technology. Next, between Maekawa and MHP, a basic agreement on improving productivity and automation of the production process for meat automatic processing. Next, an MOU between SAGRI and AgriChain for soil analysis using AI and satellite data.
Next is a memorandum of understanding between Global Security Expert and DTEC on vulnerability diagnosis of power plant systems and cybersecurity human resources development. Next is the Memorandum of Cooperation on the supply of commercial vehicles to support the reconstruction of Ukraine between Sojitz, Isuzu Motor, and Tracker Ships. Next is MOU between Komai Haltech and Naftgas on joint development, conservation of wind power business, and the MOU between Sumitomo Corporation and Naftgas Pros Memorandum on information collection, request confirmation, and reconstruction plan project for modernization of combined heat and power generation facilities. Next is MOU on the cooperation on architectural, civil structures and infrastructure development program between Kanaflex and Consortium Center of Investment and Industrial Development. Next is a Memorandum of Understanding between Hyogo Prefecture and Mykolaiv Oblast and Ivano-Frankivsk Oblast on support between Japan and the Ukrainian municipalities based on the idea of creative reconstruction. MOU on participation in the Bucha City project between Connex Systems, Tsubame BHP, Bucha City, UTEM Engineering, and Hinfra. A memorandum on joint development of Lviv City public projects between Sojitz Research Institute and Lviv City. MOU on VR digital therapy for psychological disorders such as PTSD among Ukrainian citizens. And MOU on the Kyiv Metro Vehicle Modernization Project between Senko Shoji, Mitsubishi Electric, Fuji Electric, and Kyiv Railway building work, and MOU between Yamaha Group and Embassy of Ukraine in Tokyo on donation of musical instruments to Odessa National Opera House of Ukraine. Next, the Memorandum on Understanding between Sumitomo Corporation and Harikyu Tebrovi Melezi on information collection, request confirmation, and the reconstruction planning project for modernization of combined heat and power generation in Harikyu City. MOU of gas compressor stations between Sumitomo Corporation, Kawasaki Heavy Industries, and DGDSOU, and MOU on joint production of bridge materials between Komai Haltech and CKS. Lastly, the Memorandum of Understanding on Project Management Software Demonstration between Aldagram and Corporation Planeta West. MOU on reconstruction 3D printed houses between Dogius Group and Serendix. And MOU on project management software demonstration and market research with Aldagram. MOU on infrastructure reconstruction projects in Ukraine with Komai Haltech. We covered all 56 memoranda of understanding. Thank you very much. With this, we conclude the high-level political stream at the Japan-Ukraine Conference for Promotion of Economic Growth and Reconstruction. I'd like to thank the both leaders and all the distinguished guests for attending. Prime Minister Kishida and Prime Minister Shimihao will leave the venue. Ladies and gentlemen, please wait for a while.
どうもありがとうございました。どうも。
ただいまより
Now we will begin economy stream. In this session, we will hear from the government officials and institutions involved in the business of both countries on specific investment, innovation, and reconstructions on the project in Ukraine. And then first, we have received a video message from Her Excellency Ms. Yulia Shevchenko, First Deputy Prime Minister of the Ukraine.
I'm honored to have a speech today, as Japan is one of the most reliable partners of Ukraine in these challenging times. Assistance in humanitarian demining, support in expansion of water insurance infrastructure, aid to Ukrainians in need, numerous meetings with Japanese business willing to invest in Ukraine. We feel Japan's constant support. And the fact that now we're holding a dedicated conference and a special session on promotion of economic growth and reconstruction of Ukraine is the sign that this support remains as strong as at the beginning of Russian invasion. In 2024, we expect that the economy will continue to grow by 4.6%. The economic goal of the Ukrainian government is to become more economically self-sufficient. For this, we are doing our homework, implementing reforms and improving the business environment, and already have bright examples. Last year, Ukraine implemented financial monitoring of politically exposed persons, anti-corruption reforms, did critical steps in reforms of the corporate governance and energy markets, strengthened governance and independence of our judicial. We also launched a massive deregulation reform, cancelling hundreds of burdening regulations. This year, we plan to further deregulate the economy, relaunch Bureau of Economic Security, combating the shadow market, reforming customs service. Besides reforms to achieve economic self-sufficiency, we are working on expanding export and transportation routes, as well as strengthening the country's air defense to protect critical infrastructure, large industrial regions and export routes. We aim to expand energy capacities. We are working on transfer of confiscated Russian sovereign assets to Ukraine. And here, Japan's support is very valuable for us too. And we are working on development of enterprises of the defense industrial complex and attracting investment into the economy of Ukraine through financing, war risk insurance, privatization, and increasing industrial production. Thanks to the support of Japan last year, we built the insurance infrastructure, which will be scaled up. Japan, along with Great Britain and Norway, have already made their contribution to the Big Assure Trust Fund, which already insure companies that are ready to invest in Ukraine. Also, EBRD is working on an insurance mechanism for war-related property risk for damage to goods in transit and in warehouses. In addition, the Ministry of Economy launched a war risk insurance mechanism for Black Sea vessels together with the British partners. In addition, 14 foreign export credit agencies have insurance instruments for companies from their countries who want to work in Ukraine. 4 more are working on their implementation. And I'm delighted to have NEXI on board to provide investment insurance for Japanese companies. This is the first step towards attracting foreign private investors to Ukraine. One of the most important lessons learned from the last year is that war is not an embargo on investment. For 2024, we have multiplied investment support program to increase FDI flow. Ukraine investment framework within the Ukraine Facility Plan will help attract at least $30 billion of financing, including investments, during the next 4 years by providing guarantees to international financial institutions and development agencies. We cooperate closely with Japan's financial institutions. GBIC is one of them. In particular, this morning, the memorandum has been signed between Japan Bank of International Cooperation and the Black Sea Trade and Development Bank to provide a two-step loans up to $150 million to this bank to assist Ukraine in structuring projects in such sectors as renewable energy, agriculture, food, transport and logistics for export, digital infrastructure, climate change mitigation, and medicine. I also want to express my gratitude to JICA, our long-lasting and reliable partner, for supporting the Ukrainian private sector and engaging Japanese companies in implementation of the pilot investment projects pursuing economic recovery and reconstruction. Also, the experience of Development Bank of Japan is very valuable for Ukraine, and we would appreciate engaging DBG in assisting Ukraine with the long-term development funding for the implementation of significant capital-intensive investment projects for Ukraine's reconstruction. I'm confident that this comprehensive cooperation will only be stronger, and evidence of this that during the Japan-Ukraine Conference for Promotion of Economic Growth and Reconstruction, we will sign more than 55 MOUs between Ukrainian and Japanese counterparts. We, the Ukrainian government, see big potential in implementation joint projects in such sectors as producing machinery and equipment for the manufacturing, energy as well as agri-processing, construction, automotive industry and IT. By contributing to reconstruction projects and leveraging government support, Japanese companies can not only secure their foothold in Ukraine, but also access to vast European market, shaping a prosperous future for both nations.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much.
ご登壇
Now I'd like to call upon Her Excellency Ms. Kamikawa Yoko, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Japan. Ladies and gentlemen, Russian aggression of Ukraine is an outrage that shakes the very foundations of the international order. At the same time, the security of Europe, the Atlantic, and the Indo-Pacific are inseparable. With this in mind, Japan has been addressing this issue as its own problem for the sake of peace and security of the international community as a whole. I myself visited Ukraine in January as the first country to visit this year. During my visit, I witnessed the harsh situation of the Ukrainian people, whose country has been in a state of war for nearly 2 years to protect their country, while at the same time continuing to carry out their daily activities, such as education for their children. In the midst of the protracted war situation, it is necessary to steadily continue to provide restoration and reconstruction assistance for the people of Ukraine. Responding to various local needs, we would like to help Ukraine develop independently and rebuild the entire country, from the initial emergency humanitarian assistance to the midterm and long-term phases of rebuilding livelihood, reconstruction, and industrial enhancement. Japan will promote concrete efforts while incorporating the perspective of women, peace and security (WPS) into all phases of rehabilitation and reconstruction. The involvement of the private sector as well as the government is essential for the recovery and reconstruction of Ukraine. The Ministry for Foreign Affairs of Japan will mobilize a variety of measures, including public-private partnership projects funded by ODA, to support the activities of the private sector. We have heard from Japanese companies that have been conducting economic activities in Ukraine since before the aggression began that there are limits to managing their businesses remotely and that they would like to visit Ukraine as soon as possible, and from Japanese companies hoping to start new businesses that they want to visit Ukraine in order to make a decision on starting their businesses. In light of these voices and the local situation, we have recently decided to revise a part of travel safety information while maintaining the evacuation order, which is a travel warning issued for all of Ukraine on conditions that if a company or organization must travel to Kyiv due to truly unavoidable circumstances as part of its participation in the restoration and reconstruction projects of Ukraine, the organization will take the necessary and sufficient safety measures. For this reason, a consultation service has been established within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We'd like to request that you consult with the ministry, as it is essential that you take necessary and sufficient safety measures when traveling to Kyiv, even under truly unavoidable circumstances. Our position that we stand with Ukraine is unwavering. I'd like to reiterate our determination to work together with all of you gathered here today in the public and private sectors and in cooperation with the international community to advance the rehabilitation and reconstruction of Ukraine. Thank you very much, Minister Kamikawa. Next, I would like to call upon His Excellency Mr. Serhiy Marchenko, Minister of Finance of Ukraine.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to be here. And I also want to tell you that we are thankful for support the Japanese government provided for Ukraine during the war, because it's the second biggest support we received bilaterally, and you should be praised for such a support. You did a lot for Ukraine. I believe that we can do together more, because now we can talk about our reconstruction needs, we can talk about our economic resilience and other issues which can be impossible if we haven't have enough support. We will have another circumstances. So let me also tell you that during war, and specifically last year, we got tremendous support from our partners. It helped us to cover our needs. It helped us to channel all of our money into a military campaign. It's also helped us to prevail in a macroeconomic stability front, because when we listened to our first Deputy Prime Minister and Prime Minister, we achieved great results during last year. Economic growth was 5%. We expected 4.6% this year economic growth. Also, together with National Bank of Ukraine, government of Ukraine managed to decrease the level of inflation, which was huge during the first year of war. It also helped to create necessary trust for business environment, because business first looks at fundamentals, because without very good fundamentals, business can't orient the investment in Ukraine. Also, I would like also to tell you a little bit about our steps which we are taking together with other G7 nations, and thankful for your leadership. Last year, government of Ukraine launched multi-donor coordination platform, which is instrumental to attract all donors' attention towards reconstruction of Ukraine. It helped to facilitate discussion into reconstruction of Ukraine, and we already have 8 consecutive meetings of this platform. The topics of discussion in platform is increasing. We discuss not only Ukraine's needs, we also discuss our economic potential. Last time, it was 14th of February, we discussed Ukraine's reform matrix, which includes all reforms which Ukraine right now committed for our partners, and which also to show what particular goals we want to achieve moving at reform path. And in the last platform, it's also discussed a possibility to launch Business Advisory Council, which is quite necessary to attract business into Ukraine. Because I truly believe that without private investment, we can't meet our needs in a mid-term perspective. It's impossible. That's why we really invite you to invest in Ukraine. We really invite you to find your Ukrainian counterparts. You can find it here today, because it's important for us to start launching new projects with Japanese companies in Ukraine. It helps us both together get necessary profits and economic growth. Also, I would tell you a little bit about our current budget situation. We managed quite well, despite that the only partners which were with us last month was Japan. Again, it was the month which we were quite necessary of support, and the liquidity needs was tremendous, and we managed quite well. We did necessary step to front load some of our revenues. We also increased our domestic borrowings twice. It helped us to cover our budget needs and to spend budget money into specific topics of Ukraine's people, such as salaries of teachers and doctors and pension for pensioners. It's important to mention that we also our budget for this year is quite limited of resources to restoration, because we prioritize our spheres of our interest. The key spheres of our interest right now is to gain necessary grounds to get a necessary victory for Ukraine. That's why all of our scarce resources we channel into either military, support our military, or into a revival of domestic defense industry, which is also quite important, because we realize that the only way to support ourselves with necessary rounds, ammunition, is to help us to restore our military industry. Let me finish on some good news. We believe that only together we can manage to fulfill our dreams, to build Ukraine better, and to get necessary symbols, necessary resources, and necessary ideas which help Ukraine to be better, and which help us to prevail in this war. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is His Excellency Mr. Murai Hideki, Deputy Chief Cabinet Secretary of Japan. Ladies and gentlemen, and first I'd like to reiterate our solidarity with the people of Ukraine who are facing great hardship as the Russian invasion continues for more than 2 years. And the presence of Prime Minister Shimihari and numerous other government officials, as well as various Ukrainian companies at today's meeting, underscores the high expectation placed on Japan. We regard this with the utmost seriousness. I serve as the chairperson of the Preparatory Council for the Promotion of the Economic Growth and Reconstruction of Ukraine, forming compliance with Prime Minister Kishida's directive, attended by all the pertinent ministries and agencies of Japanese government. And since last year, we had been making a lot of preparations. And as a country with the earthquake disaster recovery know-how and a strong industrial and technological base, we intend to actively contribute to Ukraine's recovery from a unique Japanese perspective. The Ukraine possesses immense potential, boasting one of the largest land areas and populations in Europe. It stands as a global agricultural powerhouse and possesses a robust economic foundation spanning from a traditional manufacturing, including heavy industry, to the dynamic IT sector. And notably, Ukraine is rich in talented young individuals. The decision to initiate negotiation for EU membership signals a path towards integration with the European economy, offering significant potential for the future economic growth in the future. Japan aims to concentrate its efforts on the 7 specific areas, encompassing humanitarian aid, livelihood reconstruction, recovery support, and progressing through the stage of economic recovery and industry advancement. Initially, our immediate focus will be on mine countermeasures, debris disposal, crucial prerequisite for the recovery and then reconstruction, and enhancing the humanitarian situation and providing a support for livelihood reconstructions. And to facilitate the reconstruction of Ukraine's economy and the advancement of its industry, we will focus on enhancing the productivity of agriculture, livestock, farming, and primary industry in Ukraine, and in innovating, creating new products, including biotechnology, developing digital IT and then ICT industry with a focus on employing IT personnel. Our endeavor will span these areas to comprehensively strengthen Ukrainian industry. And simultaneously, we will work on enhancing living infrastructure, including electricity transportation system, aligned with Ukraine's initiative in 2 areas, anti-corruption measures and governance reinforcement. Our goal is to contribute to establishing the foundation necessary for achieving a sustainable reconstructions. To effectively carry out these activities, it is crucial to engage in comprehensive efforts involving not only the government, but also the private sector. And I express my gratitude to the numerous private companies and economic organizations from both countries for their active participation in today's meeting. And a while ago, 56 cooperation project documents involving private sectors of 2 countries were signed. This milestone is anticipated to foster collaborative endeavors between 2 nations with an objective of enhancing tangible cooperation across various fields. Additionally, we will establish a follow-up mechanism between Japan and Ukraine to ensure ongoing and an effective support for Ukraine through both the public and private sectors. Within the Japanese government, I will personally lead the meticulous and concrete follow-up on the outcome of this conference, collaborating closely with the relevant ministries and agencies of both countries. And I am committed to collaborating closely with our Ukrainian counterparts, as well as all stakeholders in Japan. And we would like to work towards supporting the reconstruction of Ukraine, reinforcing cooperation between our 2 countries. Thank you very much. Thank you.
The next speech is by His Excellency Mr. Ruslan Strilets, Minister of Environmental Protection and Natural Resources of Ukraine.
Excellencies, dear guests, colleagues, ohayo gozaimasu. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to present Ukraine's investment projects in the fields of environmental protection. I have a short presentation for you to see what we have in Ukraine, what we plan, and how we can cooperate together, how our businesses in Ukraine can cooperate. So, we have a lot in common with Japan. Climate change is something that Japan is experiencing because of the natural disaster. And Ukraine is facing the same problem because of Russia's armed aggression. Today we have more than 150 million tons of excess CO2 emission. During Ukraine's post-war recovery, this amount will eventually increase. However, the war doesn't offset our ambitions, but rather increase them. I'd like to highlight that Japan's exceptional participation in our fight against the Russian aggression. Japan was among the first countries to participate in the Climate Change Loss and Damage Fund launched at COP28. This is a step to help Ukraine restore the environmental after the war. Today is a significant day for our states. We have started a new chapter for cooperation in the fields of climate policy by signing the Memorandum of Understanding on Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. Ukraine's excess CO2 quota will become an additional source of green investment to restore our environmental and our economy. We are open to cooperation with Japanese partners in many areas. Japan has vast experience in overcoming the consequences of the Fukushima accident in 2011. Ukraine has the experience of Chernobyl. For almost 40 years, the territory of the exclusion zone has not been developed. Our goal is to revive the Chernobyl zone. We want to turn it into a center for the development of science, the study of the peaceful atom, and the territory of the development of alternative energy, renewable energy. Japanese experience in waste management is essential for Ukraine. We have a massive new category of waste, such as demolition waste. Almost 607,000 tons have already been accumulated. We have amended our waste management legislation, and we were inspired by the experience of Japan in this development. The Japanese system is one of the best in the world. Our priority is to adopt Japanese new practices and technologies for waste recycling and disposal. Ukraine's forestry industry has sufficient potential to attract investors. We have launched a reform. We have created a single state enterprise. We are ready for investments. Japan's experience in forest management is unique. Your knowledge and technologies are important for us. Our goal is the transition to natural forestry and modern forest management approaches. 1/3 of our forests were damaged by the war. Their restoration, which includes the construction of forest seed centers, replacement of equipment for faster forest restoration, harvesters and forwarders, all this requires investments. Our priority in water policy is transparent market mechanism for business and access to clean water for the people. The existing post-Soviet model in Ukraine is outdated. We are moving to a new management model by creating the National Joint Stock Company named Water of Ukraine. 100% of the company is owned by the state. This company will cooperate with partners and attract investments for modernization and development. We are interested in investments in the reconstruction of major channels, the construction of hydropower facilities, and the development of renewable energy source within the water bodies. In opening speech, His Excellency Prime Minister of Ukraine told you about our new rules in raw material selection policy. Ukraine holds deposits of 21 out of 30 mineral resources listed as critical for the world. This includes lithium, scandium, cobalt, graphite, titanium, and others. Ukraine, which occupies only 0.4% of the world's land area, holds 5% of the world's raw material reserves. There is no need to invent complex supply chains. They can be extracted and used for production in Ukraine. For example, producing a modern airplane requires 80 types of metals. Imagine that Ukraine already has the necessary 64 of them. The discovered reserves of lithium, graphite, nickel, and iron ore will be enough to produce lithium batteries with a total capacity of 1 6,000 gigawatts per hour. This is enough to produce 20 million electronics vehicles. Our goal is to use subsoil cost effectively and to meet high environmental standards. Ukraine today has a huge potential for business development and attracting foreign investors. I'd like to once again highlight the importance of Ukraine's cooperation with Japan. I'd like to thank JICA for its contribution to environmental development. The opportunities of the investment portfolio in Ukraine are before you. Investing in Ukraine is not only economically attractive, it is also an investment in the future to reduce the impact of climate change and achieve the global goals. We encourage everyone to invest in Ukraine, even in this difficult war time. Thank you for your attention and glory to Ukraine.
ストリレツ環境保護天然資
Thank you very much, Mr. Strelets. Next, we would like to call on Mr. Kokubu Fumiya, Chair of the Committee on Ukraine Economic Reconstruction at Keidanren. I'm Kokubu Fumiya, Chair of the Committee on Ukraine Economic Reconstruction at Keidanren. I would like to convey a heartfelt welcome to the leaders from the Ukrainian government and from Ukrainian business circles for their visit to Japan. Your having traveled this long distance as your country suffers from war means a lot to us, and I offer my sincere respect and gratitude. It is almost 2 whole years since the Russian invasion started. During this time, the global situation has become more complex and more unstable. We see in the Middle East and other areas various conflicts and divide, which all call for global attention. But the international order which Japan stands by is clearly challenged by Russia's actions. This is not something that we can pass off as someone else's problem. In that sense, holding this conference in Japan is very fitting with the times. Last year, the Keidanren established a special committee on Ukraine economic reconstruction, reviewing challenges related to economic reconstruction and gathering information. In addition to the companies attending today's conference, we have over 80 companies, including startups, in this committee with high levels of interest and willingness to support economic reconstruction. Last September, 2 committee member companies visited Ukraine together with then Foreign Minister Mr. Hayashi. In November, 7 companies visited Ukraine with Mr. Tsuji Kyoto, State Minister for Foreign Affairs, and Mr. Iwata, State Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry. Earlier today, many memorandums of cooperation were exchanged. If Keidanren's initiatives have contributed to some extent, that would make us very happy. We hope this conference will be the starting point for as many cooperations as possible going forward between Ukraine and Japan. From past activities, we could feel the strong hope and will of the Ukrainian people to work on reconstruction rather than restoration, to build back better. I hope that through today's conference, we would be able to get a clear vision from the Ukrainian delegation on what kind of country you want to become in future and what is the better option for Ukraine to realize that vision, so that we can work together to find the road that gets you to your goal. I am aware that one of the things Ukraine is trying to achieve is to join the EU. I believe that through the negotiation process for gaining membership, the things that we have been requesting Ukraine to work on, such as promoting international standards, elimination of corruption, and increased transparency in its legal system, will also make big advancements. Also, we hope that in relations with Japan, revision to investment agreements, tax treaties, and a joint crediting mechanism, or JCM, for decarbonization will help improve the business environment. In Ukraine's rebuilding and reconstruction efforts, ODA will play an important role for the time being. But given the huge reconstruction demand, there are also big expectations for private sector companies to also take part. There are two things which I believe are necessary to promote their involvement. Firstly, in order to look for mid to long-term business opportunities, on-site surveys are essential. And in order to carry out such studies, we will definitely get the help of Japanese company expats to Ukraine who are currently evacuated to neighboring countries. Earlier, our Foreign Minister, Ms. Kamikawa, presented Japan's policy to partially revise its travel advisory for Ukraine. We welcome this move as one that encourages Japanese companies that are eager to help Ukraine's reconstruction. The second thing that needs to be done is to present an overall picture of support from international organizations and the mechanism for leveraging that support, which will help attract private sector investments. Further, schemes that shut out various risks and make the reconstruction project bankable also need to be created and presented. This is an effort that I understand will be done by the Ukrainian government. I also call on the Japanese government to provide advice and support to the Ukrainian government. KDRN has been holding Japan-Ukraine economic joint meetings on a regular basis with the Ukrainian Ministry of Economy. We are thinking of planning for the next meeting in order to follow up on today's conference. And with that, I would like to end my remarks. Thank you.
Mr. Kokubu, thank you very much. The next up is Mr. Rostislav Shuma, Deputy Head of the Office of the President of the Ukraine.
And gentlemen, the Japanese technologies, know-how, expertise might be a huge contribution to the recovery of the Ukraine, but in the full scale it can be implemented if there is only the strong win-win proposal on the table. Obviously today, a lot of speakers, a lot of businesses will discuss a lot of different segments where there is this mutual interest for the corporations and for the government of Japan and the government of Ukraine. But I think there are the strong dimensions where put the big synergy between our businesses and our governments. The first dimension is about the big Ukrainian market, recovery market for the Japanese expertise and specifically for the Japanese equipment. The second dimension is that Ukraine has a unique solutions for the expansion of the Japanese business, specifically at the European market. And this is about the industrial capacity that we have, this is about the mineral resources that we have, and the key thing is about the people. Perhaps I would like to focus on a couple of areas that have not yet been mentioned by my colleagues, but which present, I think, quite immediate opportunity for the Japanese business to start in Ukraine. The first one is about the energy equipment. After the Russian shelling, our energy infrastructure has been heavily destroyed. And there is the huge need for the transformers and combined cycle power plant, where Japan has the cutting edge technology. So for the companies like Mitsubishi and for the combined cycle turbines, which are one of the best in the world, on one side you can find a huge market now for a couple of gigawatts of capacities that will be built and will be modernized with the very good projects with the payback under 3-4 years, which is extremely good for the energy business. For example, for the transformers, we have still a need for dozens of transformers to be rebuilt after the shellings, and we have one of the biggest factories in the world owned by the government, which is open for the cooperation on the different models with the best Japanese companies like Hitachi, like Toshiba, in the transformer technologies. This is the very specific and very good opportunity to start a big cooperation in the energy business at the moment. The second pillar is about the new energy, about the lithium cycle. As it was mentioned already by the Prime Minister, we have the second biggest reserves of the lithium in Europe, and we have very good fundamentals to build a strong full cycle of the lithium to batteries production in Ukraine, from mining, chemicals, cathodes, anodes, and the cell production in Ukraine. So we believe that there is a very big opportunity for the companies like Mitsui, like Panasonic, and others in Japan, who are the global leaders in this specific segment. So Ukraine, on our side, is open to contribute with the biggest deposits of the lithium to the joint ventures, to the investments of the Japanese corporation in this specific segment. The area number 3 is about the green steel. This is another big business that is going under the global transformation now. And that presents a very good opportunities, not only at the Ukrainian, but as well at the European 150 million ton market for the green steel. As Ukraine owns the biggest deposits of the iron ore in Europe and is the biggest producer of the iron ore in Europe, producing more than 80 million ton of iron ore, which is available for the production of 50 million ton of steel. And the fundamentals say, all the analysis, that the cheapest green steel for the European continent might be produced in Ukraine. So this provides the very strong opportunity for the global steel leaders from Japan, like Nippon Steel, GFE, and specifically of one of the best suppliers of the steel equipment, Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, for the projects in Ukraine. The country and the Ukrainian business is open with the contribution to the partnerships of the iron ore deposits and the special conditions for the investment in the steel industry in Ukraine. The separate topic is number 4, is about the car manufacturing. As well, strong fundamentals. On one side, we have a big market, 40 million people, that can provide a decent demand for 500,000 cars a year at least. It means at least 1 or 2 factories. On the other side, we have quite a strong existing value chain with the existing Japanese companies that already are present in Ukraine, and strong fundamentals to be cost competitive in assembling the cars, and specifically electric cars in Ukraine. So any option is possible using the existing facilities. We have a strong private company that has built the facility and which is open for the cooperation to the new greenfield facilities for the Japanese car companies like Toyota, like Nissan, like Honda, like Mitsubishi, and others. So these are just a very few examples of the opportunities and of the big synergies that might be for the Japanese business and the Ukrainian fundamentals that we can put on the table. It is very important to understand that absolutely crucial element to start of this project is implementation of the public backing of the first investments, which we are doing the first bold steps with the JICA, with NEXI, with JBIC, and other agencies to back the investments and supplies of the Japanese business to Ukraine. Besides that, I would like perhaps to focus on one very good example of successful implementation, is about the construction of the main terminal of the main airport in Ukraine, in Boryspil. This project, which is the main air gate, that was the main air gateway to the country and will be hopefully reopened soon, was built in the partnership of the JICA. And this is the very good example of another segment implementation of the infrastructure projects in Ukraine, specifically in the logistics and in energy sector that we foresee. To summarize, we are extremely grateful for all the support that you have provided already to our country, but we see even bigger business opportunities for Japan, for the Japanese corporation, for our mutual partnerships in Ukraine. Thank you.
シュルマー大統領府副長官。
Thank you very much. Next up is Mr. Iwata Kazuchika, State Minister of Economic Trade and Industry of Japan. This is Iwata, State Minister of Economic Trade and Industry. I'm honored to welcome Prime Minister Shimihari to Japan on this occasion, reciprocating the warm hospitality extended to us during our visit to Kyiv in November last year. I would like to reaffirm our commitment to the strong bond we share with Ukraine. And for the economic recovery of Ukraine, we believe that the creation of new industries is crucial above all. As the Ministry of Economic Trade and Industry, we are determined to contribute to comprehensive industrial advancement from a primary to tertiary sector by encouraging private investment with the government support. We believe the generation of the new jobs, opportunities for the people of Ukraine, and the restoration of a sustainable, prosperous lives will serve as a driving force for the recovery and reconstruction. For example, in the agriculture, a key pillar supporting the Ukrainian economy, there are anticipations of sustained production in the flood-affected regions and increased yield for the export purposes, driven by innovative technology. Similarly, the manufacturing industry facing notable challenges necessitates rejuvenation strategies that boost market competitiveness through value-added product approaches like green transformation, along with the requirements of the new era. Moreover, the IT industry, capitalizing on abundant talent, advanced technical expertise, has the potential to serve as a cornerstone for expanding into broader industries. Newly announced collaboration between private enterprises from both companies is a significant first step, firmly acknowledging the expectations and potential of Ukraine. As a MITI, we aim to nurture the seeds of this new industry through initiatives such as supporting demonstration project with approximately 160 million euros and establishing JETRO's key office and introducing new credit lines through Nexi. And our goal is to contribute to ensuring the steady economic growth of Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Iwata. Next, I'd like to call upon Mr. Yakura Katsuo, State Minister of Finance of Japan. Your Excellency Prime Minister Shmihal and Your Excellency Mr. Marchenko, and delegation of Ukraine and other distinguished guests, I sincerely welcome you to this conference. The war of aggression by Russia has been ongoing for 2 long years, but the world knows the perseverance of the Ukrainian people and the resilience of their economy during this difficult period. Today, I'd like to explain the main support provided by Japan to support the Ukrainian economy. First, financial support. In wartime, it is extremely important to maintain basic government functions. As the G7 chair, Japan led discussions last year on an IMF program to address Ukraine's financial needs. Japan itself has been providing financial support through the World Bank. We will continue to support Ukraine as we stand with the Ukrainian people, as demonstrated by the grant assistance we provided this month in view of Ukraine's current liquidity situation. At the same time, the continuation of such support requires that the Ukrainian authorities continue to implement reforms under the IMF program. Next is private sector support. During the rehabilitation and reconstruction phase, it is important to attract private investment. The new tax convention signed today is expected to further promote sound investment and economic exchange between the 2 countries, replacing the tax convention that was concluded and applied during the Soviet era. Both sides should work to ensure that the convention comes into effect promptly. In addition, we will actively provide support through international organizations. As the second largest shareholder of the EBRD, Japan has been leading discussions on the capital increase to meet Ukraine's reconstruction needs. In addition, JBIC has decided to provide a 2-step loan to the Black Sea Trade and Development Bank to make Ukrainians' reconstruction more resilient and signed an MOU today. In addition, MIGA and IFC will provide support to the private sector through as well. Japan will continue to play a major role in supporting Ukraine, not only by providing bilateral assistance, but also by cooperating with international organizations such as the IMF and the World Bank, as well as with the G7. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yakura. The next speaker is Mr. Tsuji Kyoko, State Minister for Foreign Affairs of Japan. Thank you for the introduction. I am Tsuji Kyoto, State Minister for Foreign Affairs of Japan. I would like to add to what Foreign Minister Kamikawa said earlier today. It is almost 2 years since Russia started its invasion of Ukraine. Japan does not tolerate unilateral change to the status quo by force, and it has consistently shown a supportive attitude for Ukraine to realize fair and permanent peace as soon as possible. Especially last year, Japan has been working on support, and since assuming the post of State Minister for Foreign Affairs, I myself have felt strongly about Ukraine as I worked on diplomatic activities. Last November, I led an economic mission to Kyiv, and under the threat of Russia, the tension in the air is something that I still vividly remember in visiting Kyiv. And I still remember the voices of expectations for Japanese partners to help. The big objective of the economic mission was to prepare for today's conference, deepening the involvement of Japanese companies in Ukraine's reconstruction efforts, including the companies attending this conference, and also to prepare the environment for further involvement. Today, many documents of cooperation have been exchanged in many areas, and I convey my respect and gratitude to the effort of those involved. In addition to what Foreign Minister Kamikawa said, we will be leveraging the know-how and technology in reconstruction for a public-private partnership for Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction efforts. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs will be conducting a public partnership program leveraging ODA. Through this program, we aim not only to involve large companies, but also small and mid-sized businesses and startups, driving an all-Japan initiatives. Also, to prepare the legal infrastructure for enabling this effort, we will work on negotiations to revise the investment agreement. As State Minister for Foreign Affairs and as one who has led the economic mission to visit Ukraine, I sincerely hope that today's conference will provide the momentum for accelerating recovery and reconstruction efforts in Ukraine. Until the day that Ukraine regains peace, we will continue to support Ukraine. I end my speech by redeclaring our resolve to continue to provide support. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Tsuji. We will now take a 5-minute break. It is now 11:38, looking at that clock over there, so we would like to start again from 11:43. Thank you for your cooperation in keeping to the time schedule. Thank you very much.
43
Ladies and gentlemen, it's already 11:43, so please go back to your seats. Thank you. This is the announcement to staff members. If you are outside, please call the guests to come back to the venue. Thank you.
そろそろもうご登壇いただきますので、急いで席に。
We're going to have the very first speaker come up on the stage.
Speaker on the latter half of the conference, please come back and be seated. それでは、後半
Now we'd like to begin the second half of the economy session. I trust that you are networking, but please come back to your seat. We have Mr. Vitaly Koval, Chairman of the State Property Fund of Ukraine. If you could slowly come up to the stage, please.
小針国有財産
Please be seated as Mr. Kobali, Chairman of the State Property Fund of Ukraine, is coming up to the stage.
Konnichiwa. Доброго дня. Good morning. Let me introduce our activities. The State Property Fund of Ukraine is a central body of executive power with a special status which subordinated to the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine and implements state policy in the sphere of privatization, leasing of state property, management of state-owned objects belonging to the sphere of its management, as well as regulation of property evaluation, maintenance of state registers of property rights. The task of the fund is to attract investment in the recovery of Ukraine, of effective privatization of objects. Among the main work priorities this year are privatization, lease, sale of sanctioned property and land lease. The fund currently has 2,331 state enterprises under its management. Among them, 1,478 are being prepared for privatization. The investment menu is diverse, from large industrial giants to small objects, 618 types of activities. 8 million square meters are already leased. Sorry. Yes. Currently, 1,478 objects are being prepared for privatization. Among them, there are 18 objects of large-scale privatization and 1,460 objects of small-scale privatization. The fund should become a large real estate agency of Ukraine, which responds to the request of business, international investors, and society, taking into account the challenges and needs of the state. Yes. Another important and necessary area is the land bank. This is an opportunity to participate in transparent land lease auctions. Currently, the fund has in its management 386,000 hectares agricultural land and 220 agricultural enterprises throughout Ukraine. Among the main plans is the sale of sanctioned assets. Currently, we have 691 of such assets. The property of the enemy must serve the rebuild of Ukraine. Today, the fund's strategic task is to make state assets available for investments as much as possible. We are talking about 1.5 million state-owned objects. The privatization portfolio includes production enterprises of the chemical and titanium industries, processing and agricultural plants, quarries, prosthetic and orthopedic enterprises, design and research institutes, social and cultural facilities, castles and recreation areas. Among the largest enterprises to be privatized are Sumitomo, UMCC, Odessa Port Plant, Hotel of Ukraine. $1 of investment creates an additional $4 for the economy of Ukraine. With this in mind, we approach each property as a potential growth point. Fund is not only about management, sale or lease. This is a basis on which we plan to create an ecosystem of research centers, powerful professional educational institutions that are in tight cooperation with production clusters. This can become the basis and guarantee of sustainable development and rebuild of the country. Welcome to Ukraine. Arigato.
小針総裁、ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, Mr. Koval. Next, I would like to call on Dr. Tanaka Akiko, President of the Japan International Cooperation Agency.
Your
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am Tanaka from JICA, and it is a great honor and privilege for me to participate in this important conference on Ukraine's recovery. I am especially honored to be with Ukrainian leaders who have come all the way to Japan despite the challenging circumstances in their country. I would like to stress three critical issues. First, I want to reiterate that international support to Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction is essential and must be continued. When I visited Kyiv last July, I was deeply impressed by the unwavering determination of Ukrainian leaders to achieve victory and safeguard the future of their country. This holds true for all of the Ukrainian leaders here today as well. The Ukrainian leaders are really young, and their commitment and youth reminds me of the Meiji Restoration, which took place in Japan more than 150 years ago, when young Japanese leaders led enormous transformations in Japan's political and social structure, ushering in a new era. Despite the diverse and compound crisis we are facing globally, the ongoing Russian aggression in Ukraine stands as the most serious threat to the rules-based international order. This makes unified and collective support to Ukraine even more imperative. You can be assured that JICA, respecting the leadership of Ukraine, will maintain its cooperation and support for broad-based recovery and reconstruction efforts. In this endeavor, we will adopt a human security approach that places the Ukrainian people at the center, with respect of UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security. Second, I want to underline the importance of promoting private sector participation in Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction. Japan has accumulated significant experience of successful reconstruction using the Build Back Better approach after World War II and following numerous natural disasters, and the private sector has played a critical role. JICA will support the Ukrainian government in creating a conducive environment for the private sector, including the Japanese private sector, to engage in recovery and reconstruction. This includes providing technical assistance to the Ministry of Economy's efforts to promote greater private participation. JICA is also focusing on the Ukrainian private sector, and as indicated in this conference, is already trying to invigorate Ukrainian startups by providing equity finance to the Horizon Capital Growth Fund. Lastly, I would like to stress the importance of partnership, and particularly co-creation and solidarity. to address Ukraine's diverse and complex challenges, all stakeholders should come together as equals, building on their comparative advantages. Working together, the government of Ukraine, the international community, the private sector, and civil society, including JICA, can co-create paths towards reconstruction that allow Ukraine to effectively build back better. I believe that today's conference is a significant step in connecting key partners that have a vital role to play in Ukraine's successful recovery and reconstruction. JICA is pleased to be a member of this partnership, and we are ready to work in solidarity in support of Ukraine. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Dr. Tanaka. Next, I would like to call on Mr. Taras Kachka, Deputy Minister of Economy, for his speech.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, international trade is essential for Ukrainian economy, and sea export is essential for Ukrainian international trade. It is very visible in dynamics of our export in 2022 and 2023. Before the war, we exported every month average $5.6 billion of goods with average volume of 13.9 million tons. When Russia blocked Ukrainian seaports, our export fell to $2.6 billion and 4.9 million tons in April 2022. Our sea export capacity shrunk to 3 river ports in the Danube Delta. Export by sea fell at that time from 11.6 million tons in January 2022 to just 625,000 tons in April. This blockade was a big shock for global food security, since majority of goods exported by sea were agricultural commodities. Our farmers simply had no possibilities to storage new harvests, since all storages were full. We appreciate support of Japanese government that provided Ukrainian farmers with temporary storages. It helped us to maintain production. Due to our military success in Black Sea, we managed to restore freedom of navigation in the Black Sea from 3 Ukrainian seaports, Odessa, Chernomorsk, and Pivdenny. As well, with support of our partners, we increased the capacity of our river ports in Danube and transshipment of goods in the Romanian port of Constanța. Now we as well provide war risk insurance for commercial vessels navigating in territorial waters of Ukraine. In January 2024, we exported 12 million tons of goods worth $3.3 billion, of which 8.7 million tons were exported by sea. And these figures represent an upstream trend of fourth quarter of 2023, when we had stable growth of export due to open navigation in the Black Sea. We believe that this will help us to restore our trade with Pacific and Asian region. Our export with Japan illustrates how problems with sea export influence trade with region. Direct export from Ukraine to Japan fell from $105 million in 2022 to just $35 million in 2023. There is promising figure in January 2024. We exported goods for $10 million to Japan. Japan is important supplier to Ukraine. Last year, we bought goods for $908 million, and the dynamic is stable. In January 2024, we purchased goods for $80 million. Our export to other states in the region fell in the similar manner. For Ukraine, export to Japan and to the Asian Pacific region is an important source of growth. Before massive Russian aggression, our export to Asia grew exponentially. For example, in 2020, export to Vietnam grew by 100% in a year, which is a very bright figure. Now we have an opportunity to restore and increase trade between Ukraine and Asia. The project signed today with Black Sea Trade and Development Bank and JEBIC and Ukrainian Export Credit Agency and NEXI will help to boost trade. As well, we want to provide more opportunities for Japanese companies to be involved in trade with Ukraine by promoting international agreements. We will always aspire for free trade agreement with Japan. So it will happen when Ukraine joins the EU, since Japan and the EU have free trade agreement, or if the process of accession to the EU will belong by joining to the comprehensive and progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership. Essential parts of these agreements are related to the openness of the markets for operation of companies. Thus, announcement by the Prime Ministers of the upgrade of the Investment Protection Agreement is essentially trade promotion agreement. We aspire for adding to the agreement all provisions that will ensure Ukrainian markets are open for establishment, provision of services, and operation of Japanese companies. The agreement will be a set of comprehensive guarantees for Japanese companies before Ukraine joins the EU and afterwards as well. So we want to provide to all of you additional assurance that your work in Ukraine is welcome, comfortable, and predictable. We will use most advanced rules for trade and investments that are reflected in comprehensive and progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership. Recently, Ukraine signed modernized free trade agreement with Canada that contains comprehensive set of rules on investments in broadest sense. We want to provide Japanese companies same high-level guarantees. It is important for us, since core interest of majority of Ukrainian companies presented here is to develop co-production with Japanese companies. Our engineers are talking in the same language of modern technical regulations. Access to the EU market and geographical proximity to the EU make industrial cooperation even more attractive for Japanese companies. Our task as a government is just to support the energy of private business by all necessary intergovernmental arrangements, and I am glad that we are working on them despite all security challenges. Thank you.
勝家経済次官ありがとうございました。続きま
Thank you very much. Next up is Mr. Ishiguro Norihiko, Chairman of the Japan External Trade Organization, JETRO. I am Ms. Ishiguro from JETRO. And JETRO is participating in today's Japan-Ukraine Conference for Economic Recovery, Growth and Reconstruction as one of the organizers. I would like to express my respect and gratitude to the governments of both countries, as well as various economic organizations and companies, including Keidanren, for their significant efforts leading up to the organization of this conference. Today, I'd like to discuss JETRO's initiative towards reconstruction of Ukraine. On the day following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, JETRO established a dedicated contact point to address the business inquiries from Japanese companies regarding Ukraine. And last June, we further expanded our commitment by dispatching a dedicated manager to Warsaw, Poland, focusing on providing support to Ukrainian companies, actively assisting a Japanese company in entering a market to meet the demands of Ukrainian reconstruction. Regarding the support for the Ukrainian companies, we have concluded online seminars on the know-how of the exporting to Japan for over 100 Ukrainian companies. This initiative we carried out in collaboration with organizations such as Nazoni, online business matching platform operated by the Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And next month, as a part of the MITI, the initiative, JETRO will exhibit the Ukrainian National Pavilion for the first time since the invasion, Foodex, the Asia's largest food trade show held in Tokyo. Regarding the support for the reconstruction of Ukraine by a Japanese company, JETRO, for the first time since the invasion, organized a face-to-face networking events for Japanese and Ukrainian companies during the Ukrainian Construction International Conference held in London in June last year. This event was conducted in collaboration with the Ministry of Economic Trade and Industry and in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And furthermore, in November, State Minister of Economic Trade and Industry, Mr. Iwata, visited Kyiv, had Japanese companies speak at the matching event held in Warsaw, engaging Polish companies interested in supporting Ukrainian reconstruction. Even in a situation where Japanese companies find it challenging to enter Ukraine, JETRO leveraged its overseas network to facilitate the matchmaking between third countries' enterprises with a market presence in Ukraine. And this support aims to encourage a collaborative entry into supporting Ukraine's reconstruction efforts. Today, we have signed a collaboration with UNDP, UNIDO, and the European Bank for Reconstruction for Development. These organizations are actively involved in fostering and supporting SMEs in Ukraine. By leveraging the expertise of these international institutions, we aim to further support and facilitate the entry of the Japanese company into Ukraine's reconstruction efforts, and to further strengthen our efforts on the ground, we have received a strong request from the Ukrainian government for the establishment of the General Office in Kyiv. As the Prime Minister Kishida mentioned earlier, as soon as the conditions are in place, we will promptly open the General Office in Kyiv. To expedite the opening process, we would like to request your further cooperation. Thank you very much. Moving on to Mr. Georgy Dubinsky, the Minister of the Digital Transformation of Ukraine.
Dear distinguished participants, доброго дня, konnichiwa. So I represent the youngest ministry of our government, the Ministry of Digital Transformation of Ukraine. Some technical problem. So our ministry was established in 2019 and is the main state body in the field of digitalization. And the mission is to create the most convenient country in terms of receiving public services. As you see, we said in 2019 when President Zelensky came, we set such ambitious goals, to receive the coverage of high-speed internet, to raise a part of IT services and IT in production of GDP in our economy, and move public services online. So, since that time, we created so-called DIA ecosystem. DIA is, in Ukrainian, is action, and it's also acronym State and Me. So, DIA has become the foundation of digitalization, and it has affected not only the lives of citizens, but also changed the culture within the state. If previously government officials were cautious about the online services, now they are thinking about how to make the service digital first and then take it offline. So this is complete change of philosophy of the government, digital first. And DIA is an ecosystem consisting of the portal and application and has sub-brands like DIA Business, DIA Digital Education, and DIA City. But DIA application is our flagship product. I will show a brief video to save.
What is DIA? DIA is a state in a smartphone. It is a super app that cares about millions of Ukrainians on a daily basis. Ukraine is the first country in the world that allows its citizens to use digital passports as an alternative to ID, using which you can open a bank account in one click and travel around the country without originals. Your digital documents and variety of public services are available in one application. No paperwork, no stress, no lines, no bureaucracy. We didn't stop even when the war started. We launched new DIA-based services to help people. Emergency payments were made through the DIA in just a couple of minutes. Every Ukrainian can apply for the internally displayed status, join a job center, or apply for unemployment benefits, report the damages, and apply for compensation. And even apply for the state mortgage without leaving a house, pay all taxes and submit annual tax declaration, or sell and buy auto whenever you're home or abroad. Ukrainians even register their business through the DIA and support state with buying Ukrainian military bonds. State in a smartphone works 24/7, 365 days per year. DIA saves state budget on a daily basis by overcoming corruption. Convenient, invisible, human-centered. This is what DIA really is.
So I can add, that we have already more than 20 million users in Ukraine, and we cover more than 130 services. And really, once again, Ukraine was the first country which which introduced electronic passport as equivalent of paper one, and the fourth country in Europe with digital driver license. So we created a sub-branches of our DIA, particular DIA business is a national project on entrepreneurship and expert development. We inspire and help Ukrainians start a business. The platform was created to help entrepreneurs find the information they need to start and grow their business on one resources. promoting the development, scaling, and internalization of Ukrainian business offline. And Ukrainian right now get free consultations, attend educational events for entrepreneurs, rent halls for events, and test their products and special pop-up locations. We have 11 centers in Ukraine and 1 center abroad in Poland. And we plan to open a DA Business Center in each city with a population more than 50,000 citizens. So, yeah, please, stop it. Our Prime Minister mentioned earlier today about the special initiatives for IT business in Ukraine. This initiative is DIA Business. It was established on 15th of February 2022, just in 9 days before the full-scale Russian invasion. So, DIA Business is a unique legal and tax environment that creates favorable conditions for the development of IT businesses in Ukraine and introduces a set of incentives for the development of Ukraine as a high-tech digital state. The conditions of DIA City are among the best in Europe. Favorable tax service system, flexible forms of cooperative with IT specialists, gig contracts combined with benefits of freelancing and social guarantees. Today we have more than 800 companies are residents in DIA City, and more than 100 of them are defense companies like Quantum System, Allied System, etc. We have more than 60,000 IT professionals among the DIA City. And in wartime, the IT sector of Ukraine showed surprising resilience by keeping the productivity level in the first months of the invasion at 85–90%, and since April 2022, it started to grow. And over the past 3 years, Ukraine has been actively digitizing, and some areas have been ahead of European countries. So the full-scale war did not stop the process of digitalization, and also it made some adjustment. Nevertheless, Ukraine remains the most attractive state for IT investment in Europe, we believe. Thank you. So, DIA Engine. It's an innovative platform that helps government agencies quickly create secure registries. Online services are built based on these registries as well. You can imagine, you know, for many countries, it's a big problem to create registries and to make their data more convenient for a citizen and for the government to operate. We built a universal platform and we are ready to share. As I mentioned before, we set very ambitious goals in the sphere of telecommunications. And before Russia's full-scale invasion, Ukraine had managed to become the country with the largest high-speed internet coverage in Europe. After the invasion, one of the priorities of the Ministry of Digital Transformation is to restore and preserve communication and the internet in hundreds of settlements. The internet and communications are especially essential because of they help to timely learn about missile threats, find and deliver humanitarian aid, and share information about the enemy movements. The occupiers destroyed telecom infrastructure, stole equipment, and cut off power. Mobile operators have restored more than 1,900 base stations and communications to more than 500 settlements. And in addition to the ground, we provide the internet underground. We have to do that. To this end, we launched an all-Ukrainian initiative, Wi-Fi in Shelters, which has provided Wi-Fi in shelters to more than 5,000 educational institutions. This way, even during the air raids, classes will not stop and all students will be in touch with their parents. And one of the key words for Ukrainians right now is resilience. So, in the conditions of the full-scale Russian invasion, we managed to build so-called resilience beyond the national borders. Right now, the Ministry of Digital Transformation coordinates more than 47,000 Starlinks across Ukraine. And also we provided health and educational institutions, emergency rooms, etc. with power walls, more than 1,000, and we expect more. It's part of, besides the cybersecurity, which we are working a lot on that, but we are building also resilient, digitally resilient system, and we discuss with our Japanese colleagues, and they express their interest to that as well, because of you are under some natural circumstances, natural disasters, and also we are ready to share our experience with you. So during the wartime, we continue to work, and we introduce some war-related initiatives. Particularly, one of the application of the application eWork, and it's just 2 weeks after the start of full-scale war, we launched the chatbot eWork in digital apps. The chatbot collecting photos, videos, and geolocation of occupiers for the armed forces. Also, as you probably heard, our IT professionals joins from all over the world, and they created so-called IT army and help us during the full-scale invasion to defend Ukrainian cyberspace. So, on the initiative of President Zelensky, the initiative United 24, our ministry coordinates the foundation, and we totally collected more than $600 million from 110 countries, and just last year we raised more than 300 million in donations, and under the United 24 we established a few sub-initiatives, particularly Army of Drones. It was established in July 2022, and during last year, we already bought hundreds of thousands of drones, UAV, but land drones as well. And under this initiative, we created more than 200 companies, drone producers. We removed unnecessary bureaucracy and created fast track for drones. We removed VAT on drones and components import, and increase the margin for companies to 25%. I want to emphasize, to your industries that it's quite good margin, 25% for the drone production in Ukraine. So right now we established a system of transparent and accountable procurement, and we created the world's first UAV strike troops. Right now we have 76 strike troops, UAV troops, and we trained more than 20,000 pilots for that. Also, our ministry, his vice prime minister in charge of innovation and science as well, and so we heavily work on other areas, and particularly we are working on such innovative areas like dominance in electromagnetic spectrum, which requires a lot of electronic equipment, as you know. I do not want to spend your time explaining what does it mean, electromagnetic warfare and electronic intelligence, but we believe that cooperation in electromagnetic warfare and radar technologies can help us to protect our objects of critical infrastructure and civilian population. So to continue to help our army and to help to defend our country, the Ministry of Digital Transformation established the initiative so-called Brave One. It's a united coordination platform created to promote collaboration between all stakeholders of the defense tech industry by providing them as a organizational, informational, and financial support for defense tech projects in Ukraine. So we are working in areas of weapon system, UAV, electromagnetic warfare, robotics, domain, and cybersecurity as well. How we can help, how we can cooperate. We are ready to help arrange testing and adoption of armament in Ukraine. We financing and scaling projects. We are introducing the business education for startups. When we support, we introduce other support organizational matters for that. And one of the important areas of cooperation we believe between our country is robotics. For Ukraine, robotics significantly contributes to both humanitarian and military purposes, demining, restraining the front line, delivering medicines, cargo, ammunition, and provisions, and in the medical evacuation of the wounded soldiers. The use of robotics technology saves the lives of people and reshapes the paradigm of the ways to resist effectively to military aggression. So we believe that we need robotics to enhance global competitiveness of our economies. Also, you know, it can help us to reach the economic growth, industrial automatization, labor force replacement, market development, and improving data analytics. So we believe that Japan, as a pioneer and one of the most advanced countries in robotics, can share with us and find the mutually interesting areas or schemes of cooperation, how to introduce and deploy robotics in Ukraine. And exactly, you know, history of Japan as Eastern Digital Tiger is inspiring us to become, as our Prime Minister mentioned before, Eastern Western Digital Tiger. So let's do it together, and we believe that Ukraine and Japan can bridging cultures for digital futures. Arigatou gozaimasu.
ルビンスキー電子化移行時間ありがとう。
Thank you very much, Mr. Dubinsky. Next, I'd like to call upon Mr. Hayashi Nobumitsu, Governor of Japan Bank for International Cooperation. I am Hayashi Nobumitsu, Governor of Japan Bank for International Cooperation. I am honored to have this opportunity to address you today in front of the government officials of both countries who gathered here in Japan to work for the future of Ukraine, overcoming all difficulties. The recent Russian aggression of Ukraine continues to cause enormous damage to Ukraine, and furthermore, it's caused many difficulties around the world, such as soaring food and energy prices. This is unacceptable, and the time has come for the international community to demonstrate once again its strong solidarity. The 50 billion euro Ukraine facility agreed to at the recent EU summit demonstrates the international community's strong willingness to continue its support for Ukraine, and I am aware that Japan, through today's conference, has expressed its commitment to continue and strengthen Japan's unique support for Ukraine with the public and private sectors working together as one. JBIC, as Japan's policy-based financial institution, is committed to supporting Ukraine. In May 2023, JBIC supported the financing of the Aid Fund for Ukraine by guaranteeing 93 billion yen of samurai bonds issued by the Polish Development Bank. The Aid Fund provides humanitarian assistance to Ukrainian citizens who have fled to Poland, including medical, educational, and housing facilities. At G7 Hiroshima Summit in May, President Zelensky expressed his gratitude for this support. Subsequently, I also visited Ukrainian refugee facilities in Poland and had direct discussions with the displaced people and confirmed that JBIC's assistance is benefiting the Ukrainian people. I also met the Polish Prime Minister Morawiecki and reaffirmed the importance of JBIC's support to Ukraine through cooperation with like-minded countries around Ukraine. Today at this conference, I'd like to introduce three new initiatives of JBIC. The first is the conclusion of an MOU with the Black Sea Trade and Development Bank, an international financial institution whose members are the neighboring countries of the Black Sea, including Ukraine. Mr. Serhat Köksal, President of BSTDB, and Mr. Valery Bityatsky, Vice President of BSTDB, former Deputy Minister of Economy of Ukraine, who are here with us this morning, visited JBIC head office to sign the MOU and confirm the acceleration of cooperation for the future. Based on this MOU, JBIC will discuss the provision of $150 million in TSL for BSTDB to boost corporate activities in Ukraine and neighboring countries that will lead to Ukraine's reconstruction. The second is the renewal of the MOU with the International Finance Corporation with a view to supporting the reconstruction of Ukraine. With this renewal, we will further strengthen collaboration in supporting Ukraine and neighboring countries in addition to the existing effort. The third is the re-establishment of a new special representative for Ukraine's reconstruction and support for neighboring countries in Ukraine. This will strengthen the support system by JBIC for the local level. The representative will be located in Paris. However, the representative will be capturing the needs on site so that the concrete support can be provided. JBIC will continue to support the Japanese companies in contributing to the reconstruction of Ukraine. Thank you very much for your attention. Mr. Hayashi, thank you very much. Next, I'd like to call upon Ms. Anna Yurchenko, Deputy Minister of Communities, Territories, and Infrastructure Development of Ukraine for European Integration of Ukraine.
Dear colleagues, dear partners, first, please accept our congratulations on the National Foundation Date that the Japanese nation celebrates a few days ago on 11th of February. Now Ukraine celebrates its National Foundation Day each day. Every day we choose freedom, every day we urgently rebuild what the enemy destroys in order to survive and continue our struggle. And we are often asked, what is the secret of Ukrainians? And our answer is that we are constantly adapting. We connect equipment from different manufacturers, different systems, and even connectors. We gain resilience where everybody previously thought it was impossible. And we are constantly simplifying the overly complex. We eliminate redundant bureaucracy, excessive permits, unnecessary approvals, and we digitalize state management processes. We want these processes to be of high quality, operate with the fresh information, and be accountable to anyone and anytime. We digitalize all communications between the state and citizens, as my colleague from Ministry of Digitalization showed you, and so that the citizen has the answer from the state to all his questions in his pocket, so that he had the official's answer on a screen and didn't follow for it to official office. We launched digital restoration ecosystem for accountable management called DREAM, and each community will be able to develop a vision of its growth, develop and publicly present plans, and attract funds. And all of this will be in the DREAM ecosystem. We define new priority. This is a resilience, new economic growth points, new logistic routes. We aspire to be in the European Union. We will be your closest neighbor in Europe, and we know that the aggressor must pay for the consequences of aggression. We urge you to work together to make it possible to use the frozen Russian sovereign assets for Ukraine restoration, and it's a matter of justice, and access to these assets is historically important. What Russians will pay should be used to build a new Ukraine, more ecological, more economically powerful, and happier. And Ukrainians respect our native nature, our delicious cousin, and unique culture. We strive to cleans every square mile of our native land from war, and we strive to develop technologies that will serve people and not to create people who will obey technologies. We are ready to share our achievements, experience, and secrets of resilience. Ukrainians seek to learn skills from our friends, and we know how the Japanese treat perfection of their work. And we are grateful you started training of our workers within the Technical Cooperation Project. And Ukraine needs a new generation of masters in all professions who will lay the foundation of our well-being for many years. Thank you very much.
ユルチェンコ地方自治体国土委員
Thank you very much, Ms. Yurchenko. Next, I would like to call on Mr. Kuroda Atsuyo, CEO of Nippon Export and Investment Insurance, to give his remarks.
ご列席の皆様、
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Kuroda, CEO of NEXI. NEXI is a 100% government-owned special stock company that underwrites insurance for country risk and credit risk related to Japanese companies' trade and overseas investment and loans in order to support Japanese companies with their business overseas and also to contribute to the economic development of the trade partner country. NEXI operates its business based on the concept of independently supporting itself through insurance premium revenues. NEXI supports Ukraine by underwriting insurance for approximately 90% of investments by Japanese companies and 1/3 of exports. It is almost 2 years since Russia started its invasion of Ukraine. During this time, NEXI has been paying investment insurance claims to Japanese companies that had to suspend their business in Ukraine due to war damage, while maintaining its stance of staying open for underwriting businesses in Ukraine and continued to underwrite new trade insurance policies. Also, to support Ukraine's reconstruction, NEXI has worked with ECAs or export credit agencies from G7 countries and worked on cooperation with KUKE, the ECA of Poland, to strengthen international partnerships. Further, last November, we invited ECA Ukraine, the official trade insurance institution of Ukraine, to Japan to hold a workshop on investment insurance operations, deepening the cooperation between ECAs. On the occasion of this Japan-Ukraine Conference for Promotion of Economic Growth and Reconstruction, NEXI will work on the following 3 initiatives to provide even stronger support for Ukrainian reconstruction efforts by Japanese companies. Firstly, as announced by Prime Minister Kishida today, NEXI will establish new credit lines for Japanese companies to support their trade and investment activities for Ukrainian reconstruction. Specifically, for investment insurance for business in Ukraine, we will support 150 billion yen of investment in the next 5 years, which would be 900 million euros, including support for existing investments. Also, to support the export of goods and services necessary for recovery and reconstruction, we will underwrite 50 billion yen or 350 million euros of short-term insurance in 2 years. Reconstruction efforts can take more than 2 years or 5 years, and sometimes support exceeding the credit line may become necessary. Even in such cases, NEXI is resolved to provide further support to Japanese companies working on Ukrainian reconstruction. Secondly, NEXI will strengthen its partnership with ECA Ukraine, and through gathering of local information and through reinsurance cooperation, we will support Japanese companies' investment in Ukraine. On the occasion of this conference, NEXI signed an MOU with ECA Ukraine, confirming that we will strengthen cooperation going forwards. Thirdly, NEXI has a track record of cooperation with the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, or EBRD, on energy infrastructure project financing. In order to strengthen cooperation between the 2 entities for reconstruction in Ukraine, we recently signed an MOU with EBRD as well. NEXI has and will continue to work with our partners in Ukraine, working with relevant organizations inside and outside of Japan to support Japanese companies' initiatives to contribute to Ukraine's reconstruction efforts. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you very much, Mr. Kuroda. Next, I would like to call on Mr. Volodymyr Kuzhov, Deputy Minister of Economy of Ukraine, for his remarks.
Hello to everyone. It's my pleasure and honor to be here today, and especially my speech is closing. It's like closing remarks for the first panel, so it's also my honor to wrap up the investment opportunities and the cooperation between our countries. So at the end of 2023, the total cost of reconstruction and recovery over the next decade is around $500 billion. Such estimates were released last week by the World Bank as the part of the rapid damage and needs assessment. Together with industrial associations in Ukraine, we analyzed that destroyed and damaged equipment at Ukrainian enterprises at about 500 types of equipment and machinery originating from 21 countries all over the world were damaged and need to be completely replaced. Of those, 86 types of equipment are Japanese-made. In this regard, we are launching the industrial renovation of the machinery and equipment and ask Japan to participate in the supply of equipment to replace the damaged and destroyed one to the Ukrainian enterprises. At the same time, Ukrainians are not just facing challenges, we are writing the stories of resilience and innovations. This means providing security, housing, and affordable employment conditions. We roll out humanitarian demanding, expand the affordable mortgage programs, and introduce grants for the Ukrainian entrepreneurs. For the Ukrainian businesses, resilience is not just about adapting operations. It's about fostering innovating thinking. And those of you who visited the pre-conference exhibition and met promising technological Ukrainian startups like Esper Bionics, like Deus Robotics, Regrow, and others had the opportunity to witness this. The Ministry of Economy of Ukraine has already mentioned, and the representatives and the first Vice Prime Minister mentioned today that not only, we have not only preserved macroeconomic stability, but also shattered expectations in terms of the real GDP increase. However, the Ukrainian government role is not solely and not only about the policy making, it's also about mastering effective instruments, and we in Ukraine need more than strategy for winning the war. We require strategy for winning the reconstruction process, crafting a future that's not just stable but inclusive also. The government of Ukraine is working around the clock to introduce reforms and foster an economic environment and where the private sector feels comfortable. As such, our economy is recovering and leading the way to European integration. In November 2023, EU leaders decided to open accession negotiations with Ukraine, which are scheduled to start this March this year. This step is undoubtedly historic and brings us one step closer to officially becoming part of the single market. Also, the EU-Ukraine facility has been approved on February 1st, 2024, which also launched the huge support, not only for the direct budget support, but also for the investments by providing the Ukraine investment framework under the Pillar 2, which would de-risk the IFIs and DFIs activities for providing access to finance to the companies. At the same time, the EU pre-accession process is not only about the economic modernization, but it's about integrity and transparency. For Ukraine, fighting without compromising on the battlefield is the same as fighting corruption without compromising. So in 2023, Ukraine demonstrated one of the best results in the world in the Corruption Perception Index for 2023, adding 3 points. And in total, over the past 10 years, Ukraine has added 11 points. The most successful result among the countries that currently has the status of the EU candidates. Ukraine intends to expand our connections and capabilities into various sectors, from the energy, IT, agri-food, manufacturing, green steel, critical materials, and of course, defense. Our strategy is to spur recovery, develop the domestic production, attract investments into the real sector, and increase non-raw export, setting the stage of a GDP that not only recovers but soars beyond its 2021 levels. The capacity of Ukraine's private sector comes from the three pillars, and the bravery is the main one. Ukraine's government is focused on mobilizing resources to match the scale of investments and trade flow required to ensure the Ukraine's economic rebound and stabilization. In this regard, very productive talks with international financial institutions, multilateral development banks, development agencies like JICA, like NEXI, JBIC, JETRO, the Development Bank of Japan as well, is the supportive on our common agenda. So in this regards, very insurance companies and high-profile officials from J7 countries were focused on the topics such as making a concerted multilateral efforts and setting the mechanism driving war risk insurance and the reconstruction insurance as well, expanded the private sector support programs in Ukraine, structuring investment portfolios and the feasibility studies for the different priority sectors as discussed today as well, scaling up rapid recovery assistance packages for housing infrastructure, and joining foreign companies for the industrial renovation of the Ukrainian economy. We are very delighted to see Japanese businesses representatives expressing the interest in increasing direct contact with the Ukrainian entrepreneurs to launch joint investment projects. The sectors of agriculture, energy, green metallurgy, cybersecurity, and the construction constitute a foundation of the structuring potential investment projects. And we express hope that the major Japanese automakers will share also the engineering expertise but invest into the Ukrainian production facilities because of the nearshoring means to be closer to the single European market down the road. In this regard, we welcome the idea of opening the office of JETRO in Kyiv very much. Investment in Ukraine means investment into the future member of the European Union. And I am delighted to highlight that our Japanese partners not only comprehend this perspective, but also take a leading role in its pursuit. Here are some 5 specific and concrete steps that the Japanese companies can take. First one, invest boldly in Ukraine, that companies are encouraged to increase their investments in various sectors of our economy, and the priority sectors included energy, agriculture, infrastructure, technology, and more, much more. The second, explore partnership opportunities, collaborate with the Ukrainian businesses to leverage mutual strengths and expertise. Third, benefit from the government support. You have full political will from the Ukrainian government to get the foreign direct investments happen. And joint ventures, technology transfers, strategic alliance can foster innovation and drive economic growth for both countries. The contribute of the Ukrainian reconstruction, the fourth one, participate in reconstruction projects aimed to rebuilding critical infrastructure and revitalizing industries. And the fifth one, embrace Ukraine as a gateway to the European Union. Recognize Ukraine's strategic location and its potential to serve as a gateway to Japanese companies seeking access to the West European market by establishing a presence in Ukraine. So, join us turning challenges into triumph. Invest in Ukraine stories of economic resurgence. Thank you so much.
Mr. Kujo, thank you very much. That concludes all of the remarks by the speakers for this morning. We would now like to go into the Q&A session. Time is very limited. I believe we only have time for one question. But if you have a question, please raise your hand. Yes, we will take the microphone to the person over there. Please state your name and affiliation, who you would like to ask the question to, and then please state your question.
My name is Paweł Milewski. I'm the ambassador of Poland to Japan. This is my great pleasure and honor to attend this very, very important, extremely important and timely conference. And I wish to congratulate the Japanese and Ukrainian government for hosting all of us here at this very important time. We are all very grateful to Japanese government for its continuous assistance to Ukraine, but also to the neighboring countries, including Poland and other Central and Eastern European countries. And we firmly believe that it will be even considered as an extended support, an extended presence of Japan into our region. I would like to have one question to the chairman of JETRO, Mr. Norihiko Ishiguro, who has mentioned the neighboring countries and its role to rebuild and reconstruct Ukraine. I would like to ask Mr. Ishiguro on what role does Japan see for cooperation with countries in Central and Eastern Europe in the process of Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction, and how can we work together with Japan and other partners in this process? Thank you very much.
はい、ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much for the question. So Ambassador Milewski asked a question to Mr. Ishiguro, Chairman of JETRO. And do you have the microphone? Yes. Ambassador Milewski, thank you very much for your question. Poland and the Central and Eastern European countries' partnership with Japan is essential for supporting Ukraine's reconstruction efforts. As mentioned earlier, JETRO last year in June set up a new role in the Warsaw office to support Ukraine. Before Russia's invasion, many Japanese companies used to have their sites, offices in Ukraine. They have temporarily evacuated to Poland. And so we are also supporting these Japanese companies' activities in Poland. And last year, we have conducted a joint program for matching Japanese companies and Polish companies in Warsaw. So for Central and Eastern European companies, there's a lot of hope for matching them with Japanese companies. In order to strengthen activities in Ukraine, JETRO looks to further enhance partnership with other countries. Thank you. Thank you for the answer. Time is very limited, so with that, we would like to end the economic stream for this conference. Thank you once again for your attendance. And another round of applause for the speakers, please. Thank you.